The New England Patriots are heading into one of the most important moments of their offseason, and the direction of this roster could start changing very quickly. With free agency opening doors across the league, the front office now faces a series of decisions that could reshape several key areas of the team. The focus right now is very clear: strengthening the roster around the current core while fixing the weak spots that showed up throughout last season. And when you start looking closely at the roster, a few positions immediately stand out as priorities that the Patriots simply cannot ignore if they want to compete at a higher level. One of the first big developments already impacting those plans comes from the offensive line. The trade involving Garrett Bradbury, who was sent to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a fifth-round selection in the 2027 draft, has created a domino effect along the interior of the line. With that move, the expectation is that Jared Wilson shifts into the center position, which leaves a significant gap at left guard. That spot now becomes one of the most urgent needs on the roster, and everything indicates that the Patriots will look for an experienced veteran to step in immediately. That decision makes a lot of sense when you consider the overall structure of the offensive line. Placing two young players side by side on the left side can be a difficult challenge, especially for a team trying to stabilize its protection schemes. Adding a proven veteran next to Will Campbell would not only provide stability, but also help reduce the pressure on a young player who is still adjusting to the demands of the professional level. Even with those challenges, the team still managed to reach the Super Bowl, which shows just how resilient this group has been. Now the goal is to reinforce that area so the offensive line can take another step forward. When you start looking at potential targets, there are several interesting names that could realistically enter the conversation. Some experienced players from Cleveland could attract attention, especially considering the connections within the coaching staff. Those relationships matter a lot during free agency, because familiarity with a player's work ethic, locker room presence, and football intelligence can influence decisions. It would not be surprising if players like Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio, or Ethan Posick ended up appearing on the Patriots' radar simply because the coaching staff already knows what they bring to the table. Beyond those veterans, there are also younger options who could provide both immediate impact and long-term value. Elijah Vera Tucker is a name that stands out whenever discussions about interior offensive line talent begin. Even though injuries have interrupted parts of his career, his versatility and athletic ability make him extremely appealing. The challenge with players like him is always the financial aspect. Contracts for high-level guards can easily climb into the range of $10 to $15 million per season, and that kind of investment forces the front office to carefully evaluate how much flexibility they want to commit to one position. Another intriguing possibility comes from Houston, where Ed Ingram has quietly built a reputation as a reliable and productive guard. At only 27 years old, he still has plenty of prime seasons ahead of him. A contract somewhere around $13 million annually could be realistic, but if the bidding escalates closer to $15 million, the Patriots may decide that the price becomes too steep. Balancing talent and cost will be one of the biggest challenges during this free agency cycle. Then there is Daniel Falale from Baltimore, a player who immediately stands out because of his sheer physical presence on the field. At 26 years old, he represents a combination of size, strength, and untapped potential. Players like Falale often develop further as they gain experience, which makes him an interesting option for a team that values physical dominance in the trenches. However, choosing between someone with elite athletic movement and someone built to overpower defenders in tight spaces will ultimately come down to the philosophy the Patriots want to implement on offense. The coaching staff will need to decide whether they prefer a more agile guard who can move effectively in space or a powerful interior presence capable of controlling defenders at the point of attack. Both styles have advantages depending on the offensive system being installed. That conversation between the front office and the coaching staff will likely shape the final decision about who fills that crucial left guard position. While the offensive line remains a top priority, the wide receiver room is another area where the Patriots could make aggressive moves. There has been plenty of speculation surrounding potential star receivers who might become available, but not every rumor reflects the reality of how front offices operate. Some reports suggested that a massive trade offer involving high draft picks was made for a top receiver, but deals of that magnitude are extremely rare, especially when the player in question is approaching the later stages of his prime years. That is why attention could shift toward players who bring strong production without requiring such an enormous investment. One name that deserves serious consideration is Jawan Jennings from San Francisco. Jennings has developed into a dependable target capable of handling significant responsibilities in the passing game. He might not always receive the same spotlight as some of the league's biggest stars, but his ability to step up in critical moments has made him incredibly valuable. His market value has grown considerably, moving from a modest contract previously to projections that could reach well above $20 million annually. Even so, that number might still represent better value compared to other receivers who are expected to command contracts closer to $30 million per season. The Patriots need a true number one option in the passing game, someone who can consistently win matchups and become a reliable focal point for the offense. There are other receivers generating attention around the league, but not all of them fit that profile. Some players excel as deep threats or complementary targets, stretching the field and creating explosive plays. While that skill set is valuable, it does not always translate into the type of consistent production expected from a primary receiver. The Patriots must carefully evaluate whether they want to invest heavily in a player who may ultimately function best as a secondary option. At the same time, the team cannot ignore the lack of proven experience currently present in the wide receiver room. Several young players remain on the roster, but relying entirely on unproven talent would be a risky approach for a team trying to take the next step competitively. That is why the Patriots may explore multiple additions, combining free agency moves with potential draft selections to gradually rebuild the depth and versatility of the position group. Another name that has generated discussion recently is Deebo Samuel, who has now entered free agency after spending a season in Washington. Samuel brings a unique style to the field, blending the roles of receiver and ball carrier in ways that can create headaches for opposing defenses. However, at 30 years old, questions about durability and long-term production naturally become part of the evaluation process. Still, creative offensive systems can maximize players like Samuel, especially when the coaching staff finds ways to move them around the formation and place the ball in their hands in open space. If the financial commitment remains reasonable, adding a versatile weapon like that could introduce an entirely new dimension to the Patriots' offense. The key will be making sure the contract aligns with the realistic expectations of what he can contribute at this stage of his career. With all these moving pieces across the roster, the coming weeks will reveal a lot about how the Patriots plan to rebuild their competitive identity. Free agency always brings unpredictability, but it also offers opportunities for teams willing to act decisively. And as the front office continues evaluating offensive line reinforcements, wide receiver upgrades, and several other key areas, the foundation of the next Patriots roster is already beginning to take shape. As the conversation about roster upgrades continues, another position that deserves serious attention is tight end. This is a spot where the Patriots could quietly reshape their offensive identity if the right moves are made. Historically, some of the most dangerous versions of the Patriots' offense came when the team leaned heavily into two tight end formations. That structure created matchup nightmares for defenses because it forced opponents to constantly guess whether the offense was preparing to run the ball or attack through the air. For a long time, that philosophy was incredibly successful, and there is a growing belief that it could become part of the offensive approach once again. A strong tight end duo gives the coaching staff tremendous flexibility in how they design plays. It opens up the middle of the field, strengthens the running game, and creates opportunities for play-action passes that can catch defenses completely off guard. When both tight ends are capable receivers and blockers, the offense becomes far more unpredictable. Right now, the Patriots have pieces at the position, but the long-term outlook remains uncertain. Austin Hooper has provided valuable contributions, bringing veteran experience and reliability when called upon. However, there is a real possibility that his time with the team could be nearing its end as the organization evaluates its future plans. That does not diminish what he has brought to the roster, but professional football is always about constantly adapting and planning ahead. Hunter Henry is another key figure in this discussion. At 32 years old, he remains a respected presence both on and off the field. His leadership and professionalism have made him a valuable member of the locker room, and his performance has consistently delivered when the offense needed a dependable target. Still, the Patriots must evaluate the situation through the lens of long-term roster construction. Age, contract value, and future development all become part of that calculation. Decisions like this are never simple because they involve balancing respect for proven players with the need to keep the roster evolving. Henry's experience and ability to contribute in critical moments make him difficult to replace, but the team also needs to consider whether it is time to bring in younger talent capable of growing into a major role. That type of transition can sometimes happen gradually, especially if the Patriots decide to bring in another tight end who can learn while contributing immediately. If the team chooses to explore the free agent market, several intriguing possibilities could emerge. Dallas Goedert is one name that could generate interest across the league. His skill set fits perfectly with offenses that want versatility at the tight end position. He can stretch the field as a receiver, hold his ground as a blocker, and become a reliable safety valve for the quarterback. The challenge, however, is that a player with his resume will likely command a contract that reflects his high level of production. Another player who might attract attention is David Njoku. His athleticism and physical tools have always made him a dangerous weapon when used properly. Njoku has the ability to create mismatches against linebackers and defensive backs, especially when he finds space down the seam. He also brings the kind of physical mentality that helps in the running game, something that offensive coordinators value when building balanced attacks. Connections within coaching staffs can sometimes influence decisions during free agency, and familiarity with a player's work ethic and personality often plays a role when teams evaluate potential additions. When coaches already know what a player brings to the locker room, it reduces uncertainty and increases confidence in the investment being made. That dynamic could make certain tight ends more appealing targets than others as the Patriots explore their options. There are also less obvious names who could quietly become important contributors if given the opportunity. Charlie Kolar from Baltimore represents the type of player who might not receive the same level of national attention but could thrive in the right system. Known for his willingness to block and his reliable hands, Kolar fits the profile of a tight end who can do a little bit of everything. Players like that often become valuable pieces because they allow offenses to disguise intentions before the snap. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. A quiet murmur circulating through league corridors is beginning to grow louder, and it centers on the possibility of a blockbuster move involving the New England Patriots and star wide receiver A.J. Brown. While nothing official has surfaced, insiders around the National Football League suggest that New England's front office may be exploring what some are already calling a monster play to bring the explosive playmaker to Foxborough. According to whispers from executives and agents familiar with the market, the Patriots are believed to be evaluating an aggressive package that could test the resolve of the Philadelphia Eagles. Brown has established himself as one of the most dominant receivers in football, a physical target capable of turning routine plays into momentum-shifting moments. That type of talent rarely becomes the center of trade speculation unless something unusual is happening behind the scenes. The Patriots' interest would make strategic sense. The franchise has spent recent seasons searching for a true offensive centerpiece capable of stretching defenses and redefining its passing identity. Brown's blend of size, speed, and toughness fits the profile of a player who can instantly alter a team's offensive ceiling. If the rumor holds even a hint of truth, it would represent one of the boldest roster swings the organization has considered in years. Around the league, the mere suggestion of such a move has sparked curiosity. Rival teams are reportedly monitoring the situation carefully, not only because of Brown's value but also because a trade of this magnitude can trigger a chain reaction in the receiver market. When a player of his caliber becomes part of speculation, it tends to shift negotiations, draft strategies, and front office calculations across the NFL landscape. For now, everything remains firmly in the realm of speculation. No confirmation has emerged from either franchise, and league sources caution that talks, if they exist, could still be exploratory. Still, the possibility alone has placed the entire NFL on alert. If New England truly intends to push its chips to the center of the table for A.J. Brown, the balance of power in the conference could look very different once the dust settles. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.